I know that ain't who I think it is.
I ain't seen
What is this? Huh? This is rock.
Hell no.
Check out that text when you 5 in the morning, you probably done paying your lease. Wanna get out of the country, you say you wanna go on a trip out of Greece. Wanna get out of the country, wanna get different, you wanna get runchy. Buy the ticket right now, you tell me you want me.
Most notable and prominent coaches in the NFL.
I'm confident that they made the right decision in keeping him.
If Mike Tomlin didn't get this 3-year contract extension, he would be somebody else's coach within 5 minutes.
He would.
This man is something special.
He's been competitive every single year. We always talk about how they've never had a losing season.
I think he's one of the best coaches in the National Football League.
What Stephen A. said there is exactly how most fans and media feel about Tomlin.
Yeah.
He's one of the best coaches in the National Football League. You've likely never heard objective arguments about his results, and sadly, that's not going to start anytime soon. Instead, you're very familiar with the common refrain of excuses.
Yeah.
Tomlin always does more with less. There's no one the players would rather play for. And of course, my favorite, he's never had a losing season. Now, I thought after 7 straight seasons in which
You give I'm sorry. You give TT oxtail and drink, and he throwing that motherfucker. Hashtag facts. You just hashtag lied. Hey, Steelers fans, though. I'm being honest. I understand y'all frustration with Mike Tomlin because just because a coach keeping y'all competitive don't mean we don't want this motherfucker out of here. And I'm not saying this for Tomlin. This is why I was with Bill O'Brien. Yes, I'm going to compare Bill O'Brien to Tomlin, but only in this way. Bill O'Brien kept winning the division. You look at him, he kept winning. But I don't give a f when we go in the playoffs and drop eggs. That's ass. I don't care. So with Steelers fans, I can understand how y'all feel about like, bro, okay, we keep having winning seasons. We're not doing nothing.
the Steelers failed to win a playoff game, everyone would back off this regular season thing, but I was wrong. In fact, I was more than wrong. The opposite happened. The Steelers extended him through 2027. Surely, if there was ever a time for NFL fans and media to critique Tomlin's performance, this was it, but we got more of the same. If we let the vast majority tell his story, he could retire tomorrow and waltz straight to Canton. The guy is virtually bulletproof. Every coach, no matter how successful or popular, is forced to feel the pressure when the results dry up, except for Coach T. There's too many...
Because, bro, the Steelers have not been as bad as, at least Bill Belichick. I can't remember what the last Andy Reid tenure looked like. The Steelers ain't go down how bad the Patriots went down.
Sports media personalities who make arguments without definitions. I'm not one of them. A great coach should excel in player development, culture building, staff hiring, pre- and in-game strategy, and lastly, it sounds obvious, but a great coach should win. Only two guys have truly been great since the turn of the century: Bill Belichick and Andy Reid. There's young guys like Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan who are on the path to greatness, and then there's guys like John Harbaugh, Mike McCarthy, and Sean Payton who have all been very good. Then there's guys like John Harbaugh, Mike McCarthy, and Sean Payton who have all been very good.
Man, it's so hard for me to look at John Harbaugh down there and be like, very good. Harbaugh's tough, bro. Like, but I won't make no arguments because of how the Ravens just folded this year and last year. But Harbaugh got one. How many Harbaugh got, y'all? You got one? One ring? I'll leave him there.
The same cannot be said for Mike Tomlin. He's a coach who constantly repeats the line, "This is a results-based league," despite having little to no results since making the Super Bowl 15 years ago. Early on, Tomlin's results were there, but the actual player development had yet to be proven. Many of the key contributors on his 2 Super Bowl rosters weren't his guys. They were Bill Cowher's. Before Tomlin arrived, Cowher's 05 Super Bowl roster looked like this. Tomlin got the job 2 seasons later and returned to win it all in 08 with the roster that looked like this. The 12 players highlighted in light green are carryovers from 05. When the Steelers met the Packers in 2010, the roster transitioned once more, but a shocking 8 significant contributors from 5 seasons ago remained intact. You can see them in dark green. Now, if you would have told someone back in 2010 that this moment right here that I'm about to show you is the last time we'd see Mike Tomlin on the sport's highest stage, they would have called you crazy.
Yeah.
Any hope of a comeback rests with this play. Ben, a lot of contact. This ball is incomplete, but it was a fourth.
It was a brutal loss, but Tomlin was still just 38 years old after these 2 runs.
Yep.
His 5 playoff wins already ranked top 30 all time. He was anointed as a football genius, and with his 28-year-old franchise QB secured, the Steelers' potential felt limitless. Sadly, it was all downhill from there. Since the Packers loss, Tomlin's Steelers have a measly 3 playoff wins in 13 years.
Garbage. That is absolutely a garbage. In 13 years. I mean, that is just garbage. Real. I could be mistaken. No, I think I am mistaken. I think the Texans have the same amount. We ain't been that's bad. Keep going.
It's already a shocking number, but when you look a little closer, it gets worse. Worse is an understatement, but before we dive in, I'm pumped to tell you guys about something I've been building for the past 2 years.
Man, I've been building a lot of too, man. I matter of fact, whenever he get around telling y'all, I'll tell y'all too.
Total in the last 30. Now, back to Tomlin and his highly questionable playoff wins. He's had 3 total in the last 13 years. The first 2 came against backup QBs A.J. McCarron and Matt Moore, while the most recent came over Alex Smith in a game where the Steelers failed to score a touchdown. Despite the lack of offense, the Steelers moved on to the AFC Championship, where they were annihilated by New England. In the 7 seasons since, the Steelers have made 4 playoffs. They've gone 0-4 in only 1 game, a disgusting home loss to Jack.
Man. That's a high-scoring game, bro. He lost to the Jaguars, the Browns, the Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, and then also the Ravens as well.
Jacksonville has been close. The other 3 have been blowouts by 11 points or more. Sure, Tomlin's playoff loss to a Tim Tebow-led Broncos team was bad, but at least that game was close.
Yeah.
The Jaguars hung 45 in Pittsburgh. A few years later, the Browns strolled into Heinz Field and ran up a 28-0 lead in the first quarter. The Chiefs bullied their way to 35-7 before ultimately winning by 21, and last year the Bills followed suit.
Yeah.
They jumped out to a 21-0 lead before winning by 14. There was no success to speak of, but neither the Steelers nor the media were ready to admit what was right in front of their face. Tomlin was handed a 3-year extension worth roughly $20 million per year. He became the second highest paid coach in the NFL behind Andy Reid. Now, either I'm crazy or everyone else has a different definition of success. The latter might be true. This clip is from 5 years ago, but it's the same exact absurd excuse you hear today.
Has he won a Super Bowl?
Yes.
Like, once you do that, everyone, like, that gives you a lot of equity in a town and with a franchise.
Telling you.
Has he ever had a losing season? Ever? He's been the coach since 2007. They've never had a losing season with Mike Tomlin as coach. Ever.
Here's what's not being said when robots get on TV and praise Mike Tomlin's regular seasons. He's won an unimpressive 9 games or less 7 times. It's odd considering how little regular season win totals matter, but even more strange is the wordplay. 3 of those seasons were not winning seasons. He went 8-8. 6 of those seasons did not result in playoff berths. And worst of all, just 4 of those 17 seasons came complete with a playoff win. For any other coach, regular season mediocrity would be met with a hot seat, but somehow the media has transformed this into an accolade. The standard for any professional franchise should be playoff wins, but lately it's been hard to tell. Tomlin has a few sayings he likes to repeat. His favorite is his motto, the standard is the standard.
Standard is the standard.
For
I heard
years,
that one.
its meaning has confused fans, but
what is the standard when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, honestly? It's incredibly average. Like, the Steelers don't put no fear in me as a fan's heart as like back in the day when I used to see them when y'all had just a stacked, crazy defense. Now look at y'all, I'm like, all right, we're playing the Steelers, I'm cool. And like,
oddly enough, we can actually begin to define it by his other favorite saying. It's a results-based league. Tomlin's results are scraping by in the regular season and getting ripped apart in the playoffs. That has become his standard.
Not
it's
losing
pieces
is the
like
standard?
this from NFL films that have transformed his lack of success into a
when you got 4 playoff wins in 13 years, you've been losing. So if that's the standard, you are not standing up to the standard.
positive.
He is a consistent winner with a consistent demeanor who delivers consistent messages.
You think my message gonna change? My message ain't gonna change.
The message hasn't changed, and that's part of the problem. When I mark player development as a pillar of coaching greatness, it's really code for building through the draft. It's even more important for a franchise like the Steelers, who for the most part shied away from free agency. Since 2013, Tomlin's made 10 players over that stretch. Only 3 of them made multiple Pro Bowls. Now, despite the hard facts, here's Tomlin praising his own player development on the Pivot Pod.
I love the Steelers stick to their coaches. Only 3 coaches in 50 years. Yeah, and I understand that's why he's saying, like, I get that. But the thing is, it also gets to the point that, like, okay, when are we going to do something? And I really do prefer the Steelers model, to tell you the truth, instead of just burning through head coaches. So if you find one that's solid, he's proved you that he can win a Super Bowl, even though it's been a long time ago. I get why I stick with him. But at the same time, how long do you stay there? How long do you just let that you let the mediocrity just keep sitting?
Love reading draft eval.
Shocking considering Tomlin's identity as a player's coach. He's constantly praised for it, and the stats back it up. The Athletic conducts an annual anonymous players poll.
I mean, but if somebody, my dog Q said, I mean, what if they replace him and do worse? I understand that, but I kind of agree with the NBA model, to tell you the truth. Oh, you want to keep living in the past? Because as far as I know, I can't go back to the past. I can't relive nothing. What you talking about? That's cap. If you think it's cap, you don't know what you're talking about.
3. Side note, if this is proof of anything, it's why players should never choose their coach. Anyway, if being a player's coach has led to anything, it's highly egotistical, selfish, and undisciplined rosters. All the players on screen right now have had multiple public reported incidents where they put themselves ahead of the team. None of them are punished under Tomlin's rule. James Harrison said it best on First Take.
What was the biggest difference from playing under a Tomlin versus a Belichick?
Like I said, it's discipline. Everybody think I'm talking about, the players are just running wild or doing whatever they want to do. It's discipline as far as an understanding of defenses, the execution, even with the players, understanding and it's being taught the same way by everybody else. It's not. I'm not saying that the team is going crazy. They're doing whatever they want to do. That's what I'm saying. That's the big difference that I felt when I went over to New England.
It's rare to hear Tomlin address these incidents, but when he does, he gaslights you for asking about it. There's no better example than George Pickens. Mind you, this all happened after a
crash
Steelers won. Pickens didn't see much action and promptly scrubbed his IG of anything Steelers related. He posted "Free me" on his story and unfollowed the team. Here's what Tomlin had to say.
I know it's a cute story for you guys, but it is a pebble in my shoe, to be quite honest with you, in terms of the things that I have to do in an effort to get this group ready to play this week. Our focus is on the Green Bay Packers and what we're all going to do in this football game, and I can't state it any plainer than that.
I definitely would not. I think Pickens is super talented. I think y'all could, he could have amazing seasons where he could be a Pro Bowler. I didn't even want to trade that for a 7th-round pick on the Texans, and I swear to God, I would not want that on the team, boy. Boy, that is a D1 crash out, and no one wants to have a team around that. Be tripping. And as a fan, if you can see that, imagine what in the locker room can see.
Alright, so he has nothing to show for the last 7 years, doesn't draft well, and lets his guys walk all over him, but at least he surrounds himself with great coaches. Surely, the longest tenured head coach in the NFL is building one of the all-time coaching trees. Here's what Andy Reid's tree looks like. He's coached 25 seasons, and 11 of his guys have become head coaches. Sean McVay is going on just his 8th season, but already has produced 4 coaches.
Yeah.
Frank Reich and Kyle Shanahan both have 3. Then
I
we have
never thought
Tomlin.
about this.
He should have a blossoming tree, especially considering he doesn't call plays. Sure, he talks a big game at the podium, but if you're an aspiring coach, you need to stay as far away from this man as possible. Despite 20
Yo, real shit, I never thought about this though. Parasocial. You talking about me? Who parasocial? But anyways though, I never thought about it, but I don't remember any time when I seen that a Steelers head coach was hot and somebody else wanted to like get him. Like I'll give you an example from my team because you know I'm a Texas fan. Bobby Slowick last year was hot. Hey, we need to get him. The coach before that, Mike Vrabel, came down here, coached. Mike was hot. The Titans said, get that motherfucker up. I don't remember right now, and I could be in a prison in a moment. I don't remember right now with the with him.
24 being his 18th NFL season, Mike Tomlin has a grand total of 0 branches on his
Belichick tree ain't great. It ain't great, but Belichick has had was hot. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out though. Like I remember, I'm forgetting names. Is Matt Patricia? Matt went to the Lions. He was hot. He was cooking on their defense. Brought him over there. What's the Todd? I'm forgetting his name. They just hired him back today as the OC. So many people for years kept telling him, "Oh yeah, McDaniels." They kept saying, "McDaniels, please, we want you. Hot. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
coaching tree. It's shocking, but we can actually go a step further. The trees I referenced before were only guys who ascended to head coaching positions. If we lower the bar to include offense,
how much credit does this get a head coach though? A lot, to tell you the truth. A lot. Like, listen, say what they want to about Shanahan. He cooks. His offense continues to do a lot of in the field ain't never seen. And guess what? People continue to try to steal his coaches for a reason. People continue to try to steal his coaches for a reason, bro. Like, never won a Super Bowl. I understand that, and I get you. Choke artist, I'm not here to argue that. But you can't act like he ain't been setting the NFL on fire with ablaze with his ideas. Like, I think Shanahan's a good coach. He just ain't do it yet.
offensive or defensive coordinator, Tomlin's tree is still at 0. You heard that correctly. Never has a homegrown Tomlin assistant left Pittsburgh and climbed the ladder. Terry Bradshaw's been on the
Never? Started from the top.
his 8th season, but already's produced 4 coaches. Frank Reich and Kyle Shanahan both have 3. Then we have Tomlin. He should have a blossoming tree, especially considering he doesn't call plays. Sure, he talks a big game at the podium, but if you're an aspiring coach, you need to stay as far away from this man as possible. Despite 2024 being his 18th NFL season, Mike Tomlin has a grand total of 0 branches on his coaching tree. It's shocking, but we can actually go a step further. The trees I referenced before were only guys who ascended to head coaching positions. If we lower the bar to include offensive or defensive coordinator, Tomlin's tree is still at 0. You heard that correctly. Never has a homegrown Tomlin assistant left Pittsburgh and climbed the ladder. Terry Bradshaw's been on this train a lot. He was forced to apologize for these comments, but he shouldn't have.
Terry, I think Mike Tomlin still needs to prove he's a great coach.
Oh, I don't think he's a great coach at all. He's a nice coach, and to me, I've said this. I've said he's really a great cheerleader guy. I don't know what he does, but I don't think that he's a great coach at all. His name never even pops in my mind when we think.
Look at this freaky. With that smooth, buttery honey skin and that big rack. Freaky with a fedora on, yo.
Think about great coaches in the NFL.
Tomlin is particularly allergic to young coaches.
I ain't still
His
thinking
staff
that.
is almost
What's wrong
always
with you,
one of the
bro?
league's smallest and oldest. The only 20 or 30-year-olds Tomlin's ever hired were Blaine Stewart, Denzel Martin, and Scotty Montgomery. On the other hand, older hires like Matt Canada have been the standard.
Horrible.
Now, no one will ever ask Tomlin about this because everyone in the Pittsburgh media either blindly loves him or is too intimidated to stand up to him, but Canada's rise to Steelers OC is highly suspect. The duo got friendly back in 2016 when Canada was Pitt's OC. A couple years later, Canada took an OC job at Maryland when, out of nowhere, their head coach was forced out in the midst of a scandal. Suddenly, Canada was head coach, and one of his very first moves was to recruit a 3-star receiver out of Pittsburgh, Tomlin's oldest son, Dino. Now, Dino's not an impactful player. He has 36 catches in 4 years. It wasn't his fault the Terps were bad the following year, but they were. They went 5-7, and Canada was fired. He spent 2019 unemployed, but caught the break of a lifetime in 2020. Somehow, despite having just one losing season of college football under his belt, he was offered the job as Steelers OC. Convenient, right?
It probably took, 3 Yinzers to go, fire Canada! And then, yeah. Who's saying it? Yeah, now is our time. Tomlin's here. Even though he has his headset on, he can get it. It's fascinating what's going on with this guy. I have not seen this.
Man.
Pittsburgh fans expect a lot. Pittsburgh fans love the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh's happiness is much higher whenever the
Can't even develop his own son. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that, man. Unfortunately, like, as much as you love your kids, sometimes your kids just, either they don't have the talent or some things just don't fall in their favor. Like, I ain't going to do that. You know how many head coaches got kids that just, and then eventually them kids go to goddamn be on their training staffs? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Pittsburgh Steelers are good. City is invested in team. But this is the loudest I've ever heard it around one particular person, especially this early in a season.
Didn't end well for Matt. Now, we've covered all of my greatness marks aside from one, game strategy. While younger coaches like Mike McDaniel are known for innovating offense and scheming guys open, Tomlin is stuck in the past. The days of riding your defense to a title dried up over a decade ago when the NFL began their player safety rule changes. First, we saw the defensive
tired of him.
Then helmet to helmet, then illegal QB hits, then roughing the passer, and the list goes on. It's twice as hard to play defense today than it was back in 2010.
It is.
It should come as no surprise to all 90 million NFL fans that 11 of the last 12 Super Bowl coaches come from offensive backgrounds. The odd man out there is Bill Belichick, the greatest coach to ever live. Unfortunately, it only gets worse for Tomlin on the in-game side. I've never understood how NFL coaches manage to screw up clock management. I speak for anyone who's played Madden before when I say it's not that hard. I had this down as a 13-year-old, and if you played Madden growing up, you probably did too. It makes no sense.
I mean, listen, we're not gonna talk about no mother clock management in Madden when you controlling this some shit. Then when in a goddamn stadium with 100,000 people, and you got a 52-man roster with all your coaches, you gotta watch and talk to and everything. But with that being said, as a coach, every time you clock in on that job, you understand your responsibility. You got to be on top of that, though. All right? So I'm not giving them an excuse. I'm going to just tell you that was a butt-ass example. Let's go back, though.
To screw up clock management. I speak for anyone who's played Madden before when I say it's not that hard. I had this down as a 13-year-old, and if you played Madden growing up, you probably did too. It makes no sense, but time and time again, Tomlin has proved he doesn't quite get it. Now, the Steelers expending timeouts early in the half due to miscommunication certainly doesn't help, but when we get close to the 2-minute warning, Tomlin folds under pressure. I wish we had stats to back this up, but we really don't. However, we do have stats on challenges, and it's even more disappointing. In 2023, The Athletic published a challenge of coaches with at least 100 games under their belt.
Just seeing some with no proof.
Tomlin's 41% put him third to last.
Racially motivated video? No, don't do that, because I don't think this video is racially motivated at all. Let's not anytime somebody from one race criticize somebody from another race, we just run into, oh, it's racially motivated, because it ain't that. That Mike Tomlin, all he did was say what he's done. Did he make up any stats from Mike Tomlin in this video? Because I don't think that he did. I don't think he did, y'all. So this is on Mike Tomlin.
The truth is, Tomlin had a great 4-year run from 2007 to 2010, but everything after has been a disappointment. No active NFL coach has been afforded a longer leash. Kevin Stefanski ranked second to Tomlin in consecutive seasons without a playoff win, but Tomlin's streak is still more than double the size. Yes, saying he's the most overrated coach in NFL history is strong, but it's also fair. I'm not suggesting he's the worst coach of all time. I'm stating the distance between the way he's perceived, paid, and discussed is more warped from reality than any other coach. As someone who grew up in Pittsburgh, loves Pittsburgh, and loves the Steelers, I get no pleasure from making this video. I have nothing personally against Mike Tomlin, and I hope he succeeds because he's not going anywhere. He's freshly extended, and the Steelers rarely fire coaches. I hope he turns it around, but it's hard to imagine a world in which he does. Until that day, or the day he stops getting praised like a Hall of Famer, he's the most overrated coach of all time.
Listen. Hey, thank you for the mother subs. The mother subs. I'm not going to do that, brother.